Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe in and let go of the world's noise. What remains is the sound of your own becoming. We live in a world obsessed with announcements, people showcasing every tiny move, hoping for validation. But power doesn't make noise, the most explosive energy in the universe. It begins with stillness. Real transformation begins not when you show the world your plan, but when you become your plan. Every time you rise early to push harder, every time you discipline your mind, every time you choose growth over comfort, you build momentum. But you don't need to prove that to anyone. Why? Because true change happens in the dark. Just like seeds breaking through the soil, like muscles rebuilding after pain, like stars being born in the blackness of space. The world may not see it yet, but you feel it happening inside. Silence is your sanctuary. In silence, you reprogram your mind. You bend your reality. You step beyond your past and into your vision. People will wonder how you did it. They'll ask what changed. They'll search for the moment it all began, but there will be no grand reveal. No spotlight, no crowd. There will only be you and a life that speaks for itself. So I ask you, stop explaining. Stop sharing your blueprint. Instead, work in silence. Let them wonder while you evolve. There's a kind of power that doesn't seek attention. It's not loud. It doesn't come wrapped in noise or clutter. It lives in the quiet places, in the early hours before the world wakes, in the breath between intention and action, in the spaces where no one's watching. Silence holds a frequency that most people never learn to trust. It's not just the absence of sound, it's the presence of presence. When you begin to listen to silence, you begin to hear yourself more clearly. You meet the real you, the one that doesn't perform, doesn't pretend, and doesn't chase validation. That self, that stillness, is where all true power begins. In a noisy world, silence is rebellion. It's a conscious choice to tune out the distractions, the comparisons, the digital applause. The modern world confuses noise with progress, likes, comments, claps, recognition. But those things are echoes. They are reflections of what has already been done. Silence, on the other hand, exists in the now. And the now is the only place where change can actually happen. When you choose silence, you're choosing to detach from the constant need to prove and instead focus all your energy on becoming. Silence doesn't mean inactivity. It means intentionality. It means turning your gaze inward to align your thoughts, emotions, and energy with your vision. In this space, you're not acting for an audience. You're acting from a state of coherence. And when your inner world becomes orderly, powerful, and clear, your outer world starts to shape itself accordingly. But this doesn't happen with noise. It doesn't happen when you're caught up in the need to explain your journey. The energy you'd spend updating others is redirected into shaping your own future. Think of the universe's most powerful forces: gravity, magnetism, nuclear fusion. None of them make a sound. Their strength doesn't rely on recognition. They simply are. They work relentlessly behind the scenes, shaping galaxies, moving oceans, fusing stars into existence. That is the same kind of energy available to you when you tap into silence. The more still you become, the more rooted you feel. The less you need to be seen, the more you actually begin to see. Silence becomes not only your strategy, but your superpower. Silence also protects your vision. When you speak too early, when you share every intention, you open the door to doubt, not just from others, but from your own unconscious mind. Every comment, every question, every raised eyebrow plants seeds in your awareness that can delay or even derail the process. But when you hold your vision in silence, you keep it in its most sacred, undisturbed form. In this protected state, it grows roots. It anchors itself in your nervous system. It becomes a part of your identity, not just an idea you're playing with, but a reality you're living into. More than anything, silence gives you space to transform, not for show, not for approval, but because something within you knows it's time. It's not about withdrawing from the world. It's about stepping into yourself, fully, without filters, without performance. The silence becomes your training ground, your womb of becoming. And as you deepen into that space, your power starts to radiate, not outward to be seen, but inward to be embodied. Validation feels good, There's no denying that. When someone praises your work, acknowledges your effort, or recognizes your progress, it lights something up inside you. But that spark, if you're not careful, can become an addiction. The moment your actions start revolving around that spark, you begin creating not from purpose, but from a craving for external feedback. That shift is subtle, almost invisible, yet it pulls you off center. It disconnects you from your inner compass and replaces it with the opinions of others, opinions that change like weather. And when that happens, your energy no longer serves your vision. It serves your ego. There's a trap hidden within the need to be seen. It masquerades as motivation, but functions as dependency. You begin to measure your progress by how much attention you receive, not by how deeply you are transforming. Slowly, your goals start bending to what you think others will applaud. The pursuit becomes performative. You become a product of perception rather than an expression of truth. But transformation is not theater. It's not meant to be judged, liked, or applauded. It's meant to be lived, felt, and embodied. Seeking validation in the process robs it of its depth. When you constantly seek approval, you scatter your energy. You allow your power to leak through every compliment, every critique, every glance. Instead of channeling your force inward to build, refine, and expand, you unconsciously hand it out to others, asking, "Am I enough yet?" But their answers, whether they praise or criticize, should never be the measure of your becoming. You are not here to be understood at every step. You are here to rise, to evolve, to create, regardless of who's watching or clapping. The truth is, validation is temporary. It comes and goes. Today they love you. Tomorrow they scroll past. If your identity is built on their reactions, you will constantly shrink or swell based on something completely out of your control. And if you're on the path of real inner work, if you're committed to self-transformation, then your fuel must come from within. It must come from the vision that wakes you up at 4 a.m., not the praise that scrolls across a screen. Most people are too caught in the loop of showing and proving to ever go deep enough into themselves. They want to look successful before they are successful. They want recognition before they've built resonance. But real growth, soulful, lasting growth, requires you to walk through silence, resistance, and doubt without needing a single good job from anyone else. The less you depend on applause, the more rooted you become in your own power. And from that rootedness, the results start to appear, not because you shouted, but because you focused. There's something profoundly sacred about doing the work quietly, away from the noise, without posting every step. It's in that space that you remember why you began in the first place. You remember the version of yourself that didn't need permission, didn't need a platform, just had a raw hunger to evolve. That's where the real you lives. And when you return to that energy, you stop performing and start becoming. You stop asking the world to clap and start trusting that the silence is your greatest stage. In a time when everything is shared, documented, and posted, holding your silence becomes an act of discipline. It's easy, almost too easy, to talk about what you're going to do. It gives a quick hit of satisfaction, a premature sense of progress. But when you speak your vision too soon, you dilute its power. The more you explain your intentions, the more energy you expend in expressing them, rather than executing them. Discipline means withholding that impulse. It means choosing action over announcement, process over performance. The deepest transformations don't begin with disclosure, they begin with devotion. Discipline is quiet, it's unglamorous. It doesn't seek attention or approval. It just shows up, again and again. It's waking up when the alarm goes off, even when no one knows. It's repeating the routine when it gets boring. It's saying no to distractions, even when everyone else is indulging. That kind of consistency requires strength that doesn't need an audience. When you keep your goals to yourself, you give them room to grow, without interference, without expectation, without external pressure to perform before you're ready. That's when real mastery begins to take shape. When you constantly disclose your goals, they can become more about perception than purpose. You begin shaping them to be more impressive, more applauded, more accepted. Slowly, they stop being about you and start becoming about how others see you. Discipline, on the other hand, keeps your focus pure. It says, this is mine. It doesn't need to be liked. It doesn't need to be understood. It only needs to be honored. That inner commitment becomes your compass. And in that private space, you create something authentic, something that can't be shaken by opinion. Disclosure is often driven by insecurity masquerading as excitement. It's a way to feel productive without actually doing the work. But discipline is rooted in stillness. It doesn't need to talk. It trusts the process. It knows that progress is happening even when there's no one around to see it. There's a powerful kind of confidence that comes from keeping your path sacred. You protect your energy. You contain your fire. You choose depth over display. And in that silence, your discipline forges a foundation that no storm can shake. People often mistake visibility for value. They believe that unless it's shared, it doesn't matter. But that belief is shallow. Some of the most profound achievements, the real inner shifts, the moments of spiritual clarity, the breakthroughs in solitude. They can't be captured in a post. They live in your being, in your vibration, and the choices you make when no one is watching. That's the kind of growth that only discipline can produce. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because you're committed to becoming something greater than the world expects of you. Discipline teaches you patience. It quiets the noise of a now and builds something lasting. It tells you that you don't need to tell the world what you're doing because eventually the results will show. And when they do, they won't be fragile or fabricated. They'll be real, earned, and unshakable. That kind of success doesn't need an introduction, doesn't need to explain itself. It's written in your energy, your presence, your life, and it was built not through disclosure, but through the quiet force of discipline. We've been taught that power looks like motion, fast, loud, aggressive, always pushing. But real power, the kind that sustains and transforms, doesn't come from chaos. It comes from stillness. It's in the moments when you pause, not because you're lazy or stuck, but because you're listening. In stillness, you hear your true self without the distortion of noise. It's in those quiet spaces that clarity rises, vision sharpens, and purpose takes form. Stillness isn't the absence of action. It's the alignment of energy before movement. It's the breath before the leap. Most people are afraid of stillness because they confuse it with stagnation, but they are not the same. Stagnation is lifeless. Stillness is alive, alert, pulsing with potential. It's the place where intention gathers its power before being released. Stillness allows your nervous system to reset, your mind to recalibrate, and your emotions to recenter. It's where you remember that not everything needs a reaction. Not every situation needs your energy. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is no move at all. Just presence, just awareness, just being. When you're still, you create space, space for reflection, for recalibration, for deep listening. In a noisy world, space is sacred. Without it, you're constantly reacting, constantly consuming, constantly chasing. But in stillness, you remember that you are the source, not the seeker. You stop being pulled by every external event and begin to anchor into something internal, something timeless. That kind of strength can't be seen immediately, but it's felt. It's the calm in your voice, the steadiness in your step, the confidence in your silence. True strength is quiet. It doesn't need to dominate or overpower. It radiates from the inside out. Stillness teaches you to stop running from discomfort and instead lean into it, breathe through it, understand it. Because everything you're running from, uncertainty, fear, doubt, can be dissolved in stillness. When you sit with yourself long enough, you begin to separate your fears from your truth, your anxiety from your intuition. And from that place, your choices become clearer, your energy more focused, and your actions more aligned. Stillness is also where you build emotional resilience. When you're no longer afraid to be alone with your thoughts, you reclaim your power. You no longer need distractions to numb you or noise to define you. You begin to respond instead of react. You create from a place of peace rather than panic. And when the world around you is chaotic, that stillness becomes your anchor. It becomes your internal home, your unshakable ground. People will wonder how you stay so composed, so grounded. And the answer will be simple. You've made peace with silence. In stillness, strength becomes sacred. You no longer chase force, You embody power. You move with intention. You speak with clarity. You live from the inside out. This kind of strength can't be borrowed, taught, or imitated. It must be cultivated moment by moment, breath by breath, in the quiet, unseen spaces where most people never look. While the world chases chaos, you choose stillness, and in doing so, you become immovable, unshakable, unexplainably strong. There is a language beyond words, a silent vibration that speaks before you do, enters the room before your footsteps, and lingers long after you've left. It's your energy. It's invisible but undeniable. It can't be manufactured or manipulated for long. Energy is pure truth. You can rehearse your words, you can curate your image, but your energy will always tell the real story. Who you are becoming radiates louder than anything you try to say. And when your inner world aligns with your intentions, you don't have to convince anyone. You simply emanate what's real. We live in a culture obsessed with expression. Everyone is speaking, posting, explaining, justifying. But most of that noise carries very little frequency. Because words without alignment fall flat. It's not what you say that people feel, it's what you embody. You can claim you're confident, disciplined, focused, but if your energy is scattered, doubtful, and reactive, the words lose their meaning. Energy doesn't lie. And that's why silence paired with deep self-work becomes so magnetic. People feel when someone is moving differently, not because they've said something, but because they've become something. When your energy is clean and grounded, it does the speaking for you. It communicates trust without reassurance. It draws people in without needing to perform. It makes them wonder, not because you're mysterious, but because you're real. And real is rare. Energy alignment creates an aura that speaks directly to the subconscious of others. They can't always articulate why they're drawn to you, but they feel it. That unshakable calm, that quiet confidence, that grounded presence, it doesn't shout. It hums. Energy is cultivated, not created. It's built in the early mornings, in the decisions no one sees, in the moments you choose growth over comfort. Every time you hold your vision through discomfort, your frequency strengthens. Every time you stay true to yourself instead of bending for validation, your field sharpens. And over time, your energy becomes a force field, an invisible signature of everything you've survived, everything you've transmuted, everything you're still becoming. It speaks in your walk, your gaze, your silence. No caption needed. Many people spend their energy trying to look the part instead of becoming it. They project success before they've built substance. But the ones who shift realities, the ones who make people pause, feel, and change, are the ones who do the internal work in private until their vibration becomes undeniable in public. You can't fake that. It's not about aesthetics, it's about alignment. It's about living in such deep congruence with your truth that your presence alone reminds others of their own. So instead of trying to convince the world of who you are, let your energy do the work. Let it be shaped by integrity, consistency, and inner evolution. Let your actions be rooted in intention. Let your silence be charged with clarity. Because when your energy is tuned to the frequency of authenticity, you don't have to chase recognition. You become a mirror that reflects something deeper in others. They'll feel it. Not because you spoke it, but because you were it. In a world addicted to noise, silence can feel like invisibility. But when you're building something real, something rooted, you don't need to make announcements. You let your work speak. You let the results echo. Because an echo doesn't need an audience to begin. It's simply the natural return of energy sent out with intention. When your effort is pure and your vision clear, you don't have to chase recognition. The work will carry your voice farther than your words ever could. It will echo long after the noise has faded. People often rush to explain what they're doing as if the explanation itself validates the process. But explanations can be fleeting. They rarely land with the weight of action. Your work, your art, your results, your evolution is the only message that truly sticks. When you pour your energy into the becoming, rather than the broadcasting, you become unstoppable. You start to build something that doesn't just impress for a moment, but resonates through time. Something that doesn't need to be spoken, it's felt. There's a rare kind of power in letting your progress remain unspoken until it becomes undeniable. You don't announce your growth, you reveal it, not with noise, but with presence, not with promises, but with outcomes. And when your work is real, when it's forged in silence and backed by consistency, people will feel it. They'll feel the energy in what you've built. They'll sense the story in your discipline. When you let your work be the echo, you shift from performance to purpose. You no longer seek applause, you seek alignment. You're not chasing timelines or optics. You're building something deeper, something that mirrors your inner transformation. The way you show up, the quality of your craft, the energy behind each decision, those become your signature. And while others are shouting to be seen, you're creating something that can't be ignored. Not because it's loud, but because it's true. The echo of your work isn't just about results. It's about energy imprinted into action. It's the way a well-written sentence lingers in the mind. The way a well-crafted product carries a frequency. The way a healed human emits peace. Every step you take in integrity adds to the echo. Every time you show up when it's hard, stay silent when it's tempting to speak, refine instead of reveal. You add to the resonance. And eventually, the echo becomes undeniable, not because you forced it, but because you earned it. And that's the beauty of silence paired with devotion. You don't need to convince the world of your worth. You don't need to announce every milestone. You just keep building, keep becoming, keep aligning. And when it's time, the echo will speak. It will speak for your discipline, your evolution, your strength. Not in volume, but in vibration. And when it does, it won't just be heard. It will be felt. There is a subtle hunger that hides beneath many dreams. The hunger to be seen, acknowledged, validated. It's not wrong. It's deeply human. But when you build your life around being seen, you begin to betray the parts of you that are still becoming. The need to be witnessed can slowly mutate into performance. And before you realize it, you're no longer living for alignment, you're living for applause. Detachment from this need isn't indifference. It's liberation. It's the reclaiming of your energy from the grip of external validation. To detach from the need to be seen is not to disappear. It's to remember that the deepest transformations are private. The seed does not need an audience to grow. It pushes through darkness, through soil unseen, unknown. But that doesn't make its growth any less powerful. In fact, it makes it sacred. There is strength in allowing your becoming to happen without the eyes of the world upon you. It gives you the freedom to evolve without interference, to fall without judgment, to rise without explanation. When you're no longer consumed by the desire to be noticed, something magical happens. You begin to notice yourself. You start hearing your own inner voice more clearly, no longer drowned out by the static of opinions or the pressure to prove. You begin to do things not for recognition, but because they're true to your path. Detachment doesn't mean isolation. It means connection to a deeper source. You stop chasing reflection in others because you found your light within. There is a quiet kind of confidence that comes from no longer needing to be seen, to feel worthy. You start to walk differently, not arrogantly, but assured. You speak less, but what you say carries more weight. Your movements become intentional, not reactive, and people will notice. Ironically, it's when you stop needing to be seen that others begin to truly see you. Not because you sought their gaze, but because you radiate something real, something built in solitude, not in spotlight. When you're attached to being seen, your energy becomes divided. You can't fully focus on your process because part of you is managing perception. That's a drain on your power. But when you detach, all your energy returns home. You begin to feel whole, present, anchored. You're no longer performing your life. You're living it. And in that embodiment, you become magnetic. Not by strategy, but by frequency. You don't hustle for attention. You attract it through alignment. Detachment doesn't mean you never share. It means you share from overflow, not from emptiness. You show up because you have something to give, not something to prove. You no longer live for the applause of the moment, but for the resonance of a legacy. And that legacy is built in the quiet, in the unseen, in the sacred space where only you and your vision exist. That is where the real work happens. That is where your foundation becomes unshakable, not because it was seen, but because it was felt.